Don,
Yes.
you don't have a real phone until your phone goes.
Hello there, Sunrise ringtone from Cisco.
Even better. You don't have a real phone until your phone does that.
Station.
The other
Okay.
thing we have that we can worry about is if my stupid fire panel over here decides to get RFI'd and randomly go off for an alarm on zone 2. It's done that
Just
twice today.
unplug it.
No, because I don't want to. I don't know where it's plugged in.
Wait, what? You don't know where it's plugged in?
It's USB. It's an Arduino.
Oh.
And I'm not unplugging the USB because I fished that thing in there and I'm scared I'm going to break something if I unplug it. But this is what it sounds like. Let me turn my mic down.
Oh, God. Anyways, welcome to the ERN podcast.
Hey, welcome to the ERN podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast, guys. My name's Cameron. I'm the host here. I got Gabe, Dawn, and Anna with us today. Marley, my co-host, is unfortunately not with us tonight, but
You just said that sounds like something bad happened.
Yeah, we're gonna be attending.
Yeah.
We're gonna be attending Marley's funeral next week. Then she'll come back.
yeah,
for
next week. That's episode 2 of the podcast. Yeah, thanks for joining us for the first episode, guys. It's been a work in the making for a while.
And by while we mean like 3 weeks.
It's been like
3 weeks. Yeah, this was a random idea, so hopefully you guys enjoy this.
It'll be good.
Hey, it's not the worst random idea we've had.
Hey,
I mean, to be fair, ERN was an impulse.
It was.
I don't know how that went.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this episode, guys, we'll be talking about the DASDEC 3, and NAB info from that.
Yeah.
DASDEC 3. It's DASDEC 2, but worse and better at the same
And
time.
then I would actually like to bring up a topic, but that's not necessarily DASDEC 3 related. It's actually NWS Seattle is actually investigating an unforecasted water spout up here.
Really?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and talk about that and more right after this non-existent intro. Anyways, we're back.
Right after this message from our sponsor.
And we'll be talking about that right after this message from our sponsor, Sage Alerting Systems.
Not actually a sponsor. Anyways,
No. Here's an actual sponsor, WACN Technologies. There you go. There's a sponsor.
well,
Thank you, WACN Technologies, for the very spontaneous sponsorship.
I'm sponsoring you guys with my presence.
Oh, okay, well.
Indeed, you are.
Anyways, let's get on to the
Let's kick off the DASDEC 3. So NAB kicking off this week.
Yeah.
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 NAB did kick off this week, and Digital Alert Systems had a press conference that they held digitally, where basically
it was like a podcast interview, is what it felt like on YouTube.
Yeah. So, and it was. I think it was just like a webinar or something like that, where it's basically like 40 minutes of them actually explaining what the DASDEC 3 is and the software and how the model
before actually
structure is
releasing
gonna
it
be.
at NAB.
Yeah, then followed by 40 minutes of old people arguing about EAS.
Oh yeah, but that's kind of par for the course for NAB. NAB is
Welcome to
just full of
station
a bunch of
engineers in a
old
nutshell.
white station engineers bitching about other things like my transmitter is better than yours and that kind of thing.
My transmitter is better
so-
than your transmitter.
Okay.
So let's go
I
with
broadcast at 1 megawatt.
Only one?
Anyways, back to the DASDEC 3.
Anyway, so let's so we got an article here from sportsvideotech.com about Digital Alert Systems at the NAB show. So at the 2022 NAB show, Digital Alert Systems will unveil third generation of DASDEC flexible emergency messaging program. More info to come in the following days. So you guys, I believe you guys have watched the video that we saw on YouTube. What do you guys think of it?
I watched it in
most
3 hour
of it.
history.
I watched
got the
most of
gist.
it. I kind of tuned out whenever they were like started ranting on EAS. because it's like 30 minutes of presentation, then an hour and 50 of just. Oh my god!
How do we reinvent
EAS? Sucks now. We gotta make everybody do it our way.
One of the things I gathered from that video is they finally hired a web designer.
Yeah, actually.
You think so?
Oh yeah,
Honestly?
it's so much better.
Honestly, hot take. I thought it was gonna look different, and I honestly don't like the new look.
Yeah, it's
The
not
new
great,
web
but
interface?
Here's the thing. They have some web interfaces on some of their other devices that you can actually go and look up the manuals for, just like on their website. And they were based off the same, it's like the look and feel of their login page. And it looks way more sleek, way more modern. Like, it looks quite
And then
good.
they
I
released whatever
understand
this
why.
was.
I understand why they haven't changed it so drastically. They actually said in that in there that they were trying to keep it the same but also new. So it's
Yeah,
like
kind of keeping with old times,
Yeah.
but keeping it a little refreshed.
So
Yeah, basically
kind of like
making it so that people who have set up a DAS deck before won't necessarily be lost, but they're also refreshing the look.
Yeah.
so
exactly.
essentially,
In my
essentially
opinion,
what
they could have done a better job.
essentially
Oh,
what
yeah.
Microsoft did with Windows 11. They took Windows 10 and they changed the borders, and there you go,
Reskinned
Windows
it.
11. Exactly.
They
Yeah.
changed
another
they
thing-
changed the borders and then made your freaking taskbar in the middle, which is so annoying, and I hate it.
You can. So
Says the
here's
Mac user.
here's the thing. You can make it over to the left. Come on.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I know. I immediately did that.
But yeah. Anyways, so right now we only really have like the preliminary info about how things are going to work. So right now
Yeah,
they plan on
exactly.
having two models of the DAS Deck 3. They have the EL and the EX. The
Yeah, I thought that was
EL
interesting.
I was going to explain what they were.
Yeah.
So the EL, the entry level unit, is two channels for each. It's a 2-channel EAS/CAP decoder. It's got both models have a 4x20 character mono display with a multifunction keypad. They have modular connectors on the back. The entry level has no expansion slot, and EES switching is optional. On the expanded unit, that brings you up to 4 channels.
10-day century. I'm sorry.
Beep.
And that is why, yeah, okay.
And that is why
Okay.
you always make sure your signal's working on your weather radios, people.
Yes.
No, it's because I'm using it for streaming. Sorry. Continue
Okay.
on.
You're
All good. All good. Anyways, so the expanded unit, or the expandable unit, that brings you up to 4 channels, and it also brings you up to 3 expansion slots. So, yeah.
Yeah, what do you guys think of the dropping of most of the models and bringing it down to 2?
See, I think it is rather useless because it doesn't add anything on. It just makes it slightly more annoying because if you actually look, they do have those base models, but you have to add on the extra stuff like AES and GPIO and stuff, and those are still the base model with the plus and then the option. And that's basically what their old model was. Like DAS Radar, I can just tell you what that DAS is off the top of my head. The DAS Deck 2 radio, it's radio based with the built-in radios. So DAS Rad is their radio based. They had like DAS TV DAS Deck with radio. It makes so much more sense looking at it that way because you can see who's it's targeting to, and then what it has just right off the bat. So,
See, so the
Yeah, I
funny
think it's
thing
an
is-
interesting approach.
Yeah, the thing about the DAS TVR though, that I never really understood, is as far as I'm aware, we all know who JJ is. We know who the audience of this podcast is. Everyone knows JJ. His DAS are the DAS TVR, from what I've gathered. That's what I found on the thing when he bought it. But anyways, it doesn't have a CGen, even though it's supposedly a TV unit.
Well, not all TV stations use the inbuilt DAS Deck CG. Most of them
Yes.
go for
Yeah,
serial
most TV
like
stations,
inverts.
including the one that I work at, is we use an external one using
Yeah.
Serial.
but
See,
it kind of strikes me as
the TV, the TV. So from what I have actually read in their documentation, so there's basically two different kinds of DAS decks that you can get because it depends on the motherboard. So you've got the ones that are powered
Intel
by the
board.
VIA CPUs, and then ones that are powered by the Intel CPUs. The Intel CPUs never have the CGen. They basically never do. If they do, they've got a BNC port.
yes.
And then the VIA ones always have a
my
yeah.
because my DAS deck has a Intel chip and it has CGen.
yes. it
Yeah,
has to
but
be
So-
yours has a
And
BNC port though.
Mine
Yours
has
is also-
mine is powered by the VIA CPU, and that one is
Composite.
a composite port on the back of the I/O shield.
Yeah. But from what I've seen, the actual model doesn't really reflect on which one you get because you could either get the VIA or the Celeron ones. But
Yeah.
honestly, what the model actually reflects is what licensing you have because the TV license on the DAS is what would come with the DAS TV because you've got a TV unit, so they're going to give you the TV licensing, and the TV licensing gives you the ability to do like serial CGen. It gives you built-in CGen if that's available. It gives you like remote CGen, like over Ethernet and stuff, like the digital Chiron, the Cayman CG graphics. Gives you all that. That isn't in there by default. You need the CGen package for that, or the TV package for
Speaking of CGen, I put it in the rundown for this episode. DAS is integrating VIDS, visually integrated display symbology, into the DAS Deck 3. Have you guys read on that?
So yes, I actually did. So VIDS is actually something that the DAS Deck 2 did, but not directly. So they're implementing it
Yeah.
directly now for VIDS compatible CGens. However, previously they did do demonstrations of VIDS with a Chiron unit, where basically it would pick up the event code from the actual unit, and it would basically do that kind of symbology. I'm happy that it's seeing more of an effect. It's having more of a impact. I don't know if TV stations will use it. A lot of them use custom setups with like Everts, and I see a lot of Everts units out there, Chiron, and what was that other brand?
Yeah, the one specifically that they paired with the DAS deck for that originally was the Shy TV.
Yeah.
I think
Or sometimes they
I'm
just have their
not.
own custom stuff.
I'm pretty sure that the actual the icon stuff is ATSC3 standard for EAS.
Yeah, the icons are
So-
ATSC3 standard, but they're not necessarily. But the icons are there, but it's also not necessarily going to be a case of all TV stations are going to necessarily implement it because
Yeah.
Do you think that stations should have something at least similar to these, or at least
I
like,
don't-
in the same general like philosophy?
Yeah, I think they should have something similar. Like for example, if a station starts relaying a severe thunderstorm warning, something that I want to see along with the scroll is is a secondary scroll that has instructions on what to do in a severe thunderstorm. Because that
I
can
like
be
that
done
idea.
within CGen.
a
That can be
great
done within
example.
just processing the CGen software.
A great example was is the Weather Channel. Like whenever they're getting severe weather stuff, if they're doing like a scroll for it, they'll actually have not only the event, the area it's affected, but they usually also include. It doesn't need to be super advanced script. It just needs to be a basic, like move indoors, lowest floor of a building, away from windows.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the basic
Yeah.
stuff.
I mean that's relatively
And it also-
easy to implement.
And something else too that I like about the way that the Weather Channel does it is that you hear a beep and then it says a severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for our area, and like it basically it tells you instead of it saying like it's in effect for the following counties: Snohomish, King, Kitsap, Skagit. It'll actually say it's in our area, and it's pretty much
it makes it feel more
specific on how
localized.
they want to implement it. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, which I think is great about what they're doing there, because I feel like with EAS or just weather alerts in general, I feel it's important to be able to grab the mind of whoever's listening. And I feel like that's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The goal is to inform the user, not necessarily fill them with a bunch of jargon.
Yeah.
So you have the VIDS Gen, which I think yes it can help, especially if say they set the scroll way too fast, like certain stations that I am aware of do. But there is one thing I actually did want to touch on is the expansions cards that you can actually get for the DAS 3. And we can also kind of touch on. This also kind of touches on Anna's previous point where it kind of feels useless because one of the modules that you can get is 2 additional monitoring inputs. And basically you have 3 modules that you can get for only the expandable model, but the AES module you can get on EL or EX. So for the expandable one, you can get an EIS module that's basically just like a sound blaster. It'll give you 2 additional monitor in, and then you have the GPIO-E, which gives you 8 additional GPIO pins that you can trigger depending on what event it is.
Kind of like how the multiplayer was for the for the 2.
Okay.
And then I'm sure it's also going to be compatible with the multiplayer still because it's a software thing. But
Yeah.
And then you also have the EXP2 NIC Gig, which I'm sure basically it adds 2 additional gigabit Ethernet ports, and they're separate ports. So yeah, basically the DAS 3 can only have a maximum of 3 Ethernet ports instead of the 4 like you can get on some of the OneNet units. Which
on some of the I think it's the VIA ones, you can get almost up to 5, only 4 supported. Like 5 physical ports, only 4 supported on the unit though.
Yeah.
Like that's ridiculous. Or is it the Intel ones? I don't know. It's one of them.
It is the VIA one.
Yeah.
I thought it was
there's a revision of the VIA model that has 2 Ethernet ports like directly above and below each other.
Okay.
And you can get the 3-port expansion on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see that one in the manuals. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You want Ethernet?
And
we'll give you all the Ethernet.
And I actually touched on this about the OneNet because I guess I actually do have a OneNet, but OneNet is dying. It's going to be all DAS.
Going away this generation.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be all DAS, which makes the cable systems question, because they all chose OneNet.
It makes you wonder if that's I wonder if maybe what I'm thinking is, what if there was more expansion cards on the way that are more aimed toward those cable systems?
Oh, likely. I'm sure they'll have an impact.
that is likely.
I feel like that will help. I feel like that would help, like, I guess, lessen the blow toward cable companies with the OneNet.
Yeah, one of the things that I have is called the MPEG expansion card, and that allows you to just send a MPEG SDI stream out, and make that more compatible with some of the other things that.
Speaking of which, what do you guys think about the HDMI video that it's going to support?
I noticed that on the spec sheet.
Yeah, I did notice that too. I don't know if I don't
with audio
think about
too.
that.
In the video, they actually
It makes you wonder how you would implement that.
Well, it from what I heard, it is basically exactly like the old style CGen. It's just HD. It's just out of HDMI. So they just implemented the old CGen in HDMI.
That makes me wonder if it'll be widescreen.
Yeah, that's what I was
probably
thinking.
will
Is if it
because
would be
it's HD.
widescreen.
Oh, okay, that'll be interesting. The resolution.
You ready
If
for
it's sending a
white-
1920
I wonder
by
if-
1080 signal, probably.
It makes you
I
wonder
wonder
if they're
if,
gonna have the old
um,
C-Gen style, if they're gonna
Yeah, that's what-
reformat the.
Are they gonna?
do
I
something
mean,
different.
it would be pretty.
Finally-
It would be pretty easy to do it, but judging by the way how the C-Gen actually works, I don't think that's how they're going to do it. Because because the way that they do their C-Gen right now, they are still limited by the multi-page function. I mean, yes, you can use like FFmpeg to get scrolls and stuff, but
Which makes you
I'm-
wonder if they're gonna somehow utilize the VIDS in some way.
Yeah.
With the C-Gen
So-
built
Yeah.
in.
yeah, because they did mention
one thing that
they did mention that.
In the video that they posted, one thing that they were talking about is right now, apparently the DAS 3 can only do full screen override over the HDMI, but they were talking about the possibility of adding in a scroll system directly into the DAS units. I have no idea how it's going to look. I don't know if it's going to be the
It might be a
the
chroma
VDS
key
directly.
scroll.
Yeah, it might be chroma
Yeah,
key.
like
It
a
might
key
be
and
the
fill
VDS
signal.
directly built in. That would be neat.
Well, yeah,
It makes
'cause
you wonder with the
question-
expansion
question.
card. I guess you would just have to drop a new card in to be able to get that functionality.
drop a card in, get a software update.
Yeah, get like a key and fill card where it has 2 SDI outputs, kind of like how you could use a Blackmagic design card to do key and fill signals.
Yeah.
Speaking of software update,
Yeah, there's version 5. We touched on this earlier. So version 5
Yeah, we
is
touched on
going to
it
have
before.
the biggest redesign in DAS history. And by biggest redesign, I mean they changed the background to white and they made it look like it was the 2000s instead of 1998.
Yep.
also, it's 64-bit, which leads
Yeah,
me, and
64-bit.
apparently their DAS units since 2014 have also been, have supported 64-bit, having a 64-bit CPU, but they have been running a 32-bit OS this entire time, running either Red Hat or Fedora. You can just look up which one you're running. I think the older ones use no. The newer ones use CentOS, isn't it?
Yeah, it's NOS
Yes.
6.9
Yeah.
to be precise.
But
Nice.
it leads me to the question: what has happened to have them wait that long? Because if they've had the ability to bump up to 64-bit back in 2014, why haven't they?
Well, I think it's
It makes
RAM
you wonder if
limitations.
it's something to do with the like the other boards that make the
Well,
DAS deck.
So
the DAS deck,
I
like,
think
Here-
so.
Here's
Okay.
here's the thing. In that video, they actually said that units past 2014 are supported by 5.0, which is a 64-bit OS. They'll have no problems running it. So
My thing is the question that I have actually is I think they're switching from 32 to 64-bit due to RAM limitations. I think the DAS deck is probably going to have more than 4 gigs of RAM.
Oh,
what
I
about
could
old
believe
units
it.
though that only have like 1 gig?
If it's past 2014, maybe they have higher RAM count. I'm not sure, but
maybe it's just disabled in the OS.
yeah, because
To only take a certain
perhaps
amount.
or perhaps the like for example they're upping the RAM for the future, and so that you can have better features that may use more RAM, but they might leave the older units in the dust.
Okay.
It's
Speaking
probably
of
for future expansion. So
back to the whole point of the model units, I did notice one thing. In their graph where they were showing where each unit gets mapped to the newer units, they did not map the EOC models. Is there going to be a new EOC model, or are the EOCs just going to be locked into DAS 2 basically forever? Because
Honestly,
they
what
didn't
I think it might
make
be is
a DAS 3 EOC.
what I honestly think with that, since it's all like a modular design, maybe it's like like everything else in the DASDEC universe, it's probably just another software key.
Yeah, it's going to be a software package for the DAS 3 EX.
Yeah. But
Which I wouldn't be
according to
surprised, honestly.
DAS's page on the EOC, the EOCs are supposedly more secure than a normal DAS deck because it is quote-unquote EOC grade, which makes me, it leads me to believe, is there any difference at all at this point between a normal EOC and a DAS that they're comfortable bringing the DAS deck 3 into EOCs, or was it or is the DAS
The
deck
regular
3
DAS.
going to be EOC grade?
See, if I had to
Which
guess,
would be very interesting though, because I guess with the DAS 2, I guess because my station, I'm sure we all know, had their DAS deck accessed remotely, and funny enough, my station was the one that sent out the zombie alert well back when.
Oh yeah, for
So
context,
maybe they're
for context for those who don't know, Cameron works at KRTV.
I do.
And
yeah,
I guess
so
I mean
I wonder
I guess
if-
I mean context. I mean context for kind of work. I don't work in the I don't work in broadcasting. I'm an IT service desk technician at Bungie.
nerd.
So
I'm sure we're all nerds here.
yeah, but I'm an enthusiast.
I am a programmer for a startup called The Rights. We do music licensing stuff, but I
and
do
I'm a struggling high school
volunteer.
student.
But I do volunteer at WXR WLP, so I get to play with their DAS deck all the time, which is a Intel unit, DAS deck 2 LP, I believe.
Which makes you, speaking of
LPR.
like Intel and all the different types of
LCR,
chips in this,
sorry.
it makes you wonder what could happen in terms of, what am I trying to say here? Where it's, it makes you wonder if they're going to try to use a different chip style. Maybe, who knows? Maybe the DAS could run on ARM. I guess we won't know.
Oh, I
A
think
lot
we
of
just
things,
lost
are
Dawn.
switching. It's all good.
And it looks
Oh,
like Dawn
I'm
has
back.
returned.
Yeah, okay.
We'll be all good. It's all good.
Well,
Anyway,
it could
so-
be worse.
Don, we were just talking about what if the DAS 3 moved to maybe a different type of CPU architecture? Like, what if it was running on ARM? You know, so many things are moving to ARM.
Dawn would ARM would actually definitely be cost effective in this case.
It would, yes.
I mean, look at Sage. Sage runs on ARM.
See, yeah, but to be fair, ancient ARM. For context, for those
Well,
who
yeah.
don't know, for context, for those who don't know, I want to say it's digital. I've cracked it open. I know what it runs. It's basically an 1822 emulated on an FPGA, controlled by a SoC daughter board. That's basically 1/3 of a Raspberry Pi that controls the
It's an
weapon.
old ass
I-
spicy Raspberry Pi.
But yeah, and it's also red.
I run
and it runs Linux.
Yep.
I run a OneNet SE, so
Yeah. I also have a OneNet
So
SE.
here's my take on that. Yes, it would be more cost effective on the hardware, but they'd have to completely rewrite the software to handle the new architecture.
Not necessarily. It can just be
recompile it.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
but they're already doing that for V5, and they actually did the two versions for whichever one you had, because that's how they did it. That's how they deployed version 3, because version 3 works on the DASDEC 1.
Yeah.
So they had two different binaries, one for the DASDEC 2 and one for the DASDEC 1. It wouldn't be the first time they've done that.
speaking of
Yeah,
version 5,
but
is there anything that we're hoping for
At the same
in that update?
At the same time, I think ARM is great in this, but also I think that they have just a lot of infrastructure already backed on the architecture that they're using. So they're not going
to
to want to
answer-
move to something new.
To answer Cam's question, Cam was asking if there's anything we were looking forward to in V5. I honestly look forward to the reduction of license keys. If they do that, I mean, we won't be able to tell until we find out. Until it actually
makes you
comes
wonder.
out.
It makes you wonder if expansion cards are going to be like hardware keys.
Or tomorrow is actually when they are starting to. Tomorrow is when NAB officially starts. So perhaps
because we're recording this Saturday night for.
We're recording this on the
23rd.
Sunday the 24th is when NAB actually starts.
And by the time that this episode is up, we're hoping it'll be up on the 25th, but
we'll leave something in the description for anything like that. Hopefully we'll be covering more information next week. Hopefully by then Marley would have risen from the grave, but you know.
Imagine if they say that they're going to reduce license keys, but they actually increase them. So it's like whenever version 5 gets released and like Gabe gets it and Gabe and Cam get it for their units and they install it and it's like, now you have 20 billion license keys. You need a license key per button.
Speaking of buttons,
we need a license key for the single button on our front panel. I mean, to be fair, I never use the damn thing, so.
Oh, speaking of buttons on the front panel, let's talk about the front panel, where they moved both the lights, the speaker, added a new light, and a shit ton more buttons.
Speaking of the light, what do you guys think of the new 3-light style?
I think the 2-light style works perfectly fine.
I need to get a better look at the front panel, you know? Okay, there we go.
So the 3-light style, they have, I believe it is set up so it's one for power, one for alert receive, and one for alert send.
So yeah, it's the exact configuration is power. So it's it's green, yellow, and red, and it is green for power, yellow for pending alert, and red for alert send.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like that idea because I've noticed in operation of mine, I feel like sometimes like if I turn around and look at my one net, I have to look at it for a little bit longer than I'd want just to see if it's receiving or sending, just because of how the alert light works on that one. So that might be interesting to see how that works out.
Realistically, you shouldn't actually have to check your unit; it should just work. But it is DAS we're talking about.
In a perfect world.
Yeah, it is DAS.
Yeah, like on my digital, it's incoming alert, outgoing alert, attention tone, whether or not the unit's in automatic mode, and digital audio lock.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, I feel like with
the automatic only really gets traffic whenever it loses internet connection. Attention tone happens whenever somebody plays a solid tone over any of my monitors. Digital audio lock has no use for me because I don't use AES.
Maybe I'll have to send an attention tone for like an hour and see what your Sage does.
Oh, it just stays
I'm not monitoring you directly.
time.
But yeah, it would stay on the. Actually, I'm getting in what right now. Okay.
So now,
New Hampshire's at a demo a couple minutes ago.
how do you think that they're going to use their new color screens on the EX model?
Is it a color screen?
Yes, the EL model is a monochromatic 20x4, and the EX model is color. Yeah, it's got a color display.
Now, I'm excited to see how that's going to be implemented.
Yeah, hopefully
far,
tomorrow at NAB we'll be able to see that.
Yeah. So far, what I'm thinking is they might be able to use it to show. I don't know if they're going to do monitor statuses on the front panel, and if they do, they can kind of emulate what they're doing in the web interface, where with the web interface it does this on the older units as well, where if your radios or monitors have a low input, the inputs will show up red. If they're kind of like if they're low-ish, they'll be orange, or if they're yellow, or if they're slightly high, they'll be yellow, and if they're just right, they're green. So they could do that if they have like 6 monitor inputs.
Maybe
on
show
the
like
front, they can
a
have them
real
be red,
time,
yellow, and green.
Like a real time,
kind of like an easy
meter.
Kind of like an easy plus. That would be pretty cool.
Be cool, kind of bringing back something from the past.
Yeah, this is the first time that that DAS will have the same amount of character real estate as Sage and Easy, or Sage and the previous Trilithic, now Viavi, but we don't talk about the Easy Cap here.
We'll have another episode on that eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah, whenever we feel like talking about the Easy Cap.
So, yeah. So speaking of EasyCap, actually, earlier I know we were talking about the DAS and what processor it ran on. The EasyCap is powered by Intel Celeron,
Yep.
and that explains a lot.
If we want to talk about interesting units, we can talk about the Easy Cap and then the Gorman Redlick, which runs on Windows of all things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emma, who works at CIVL in Canada, had to recently. She's looking for a new unit because their Gorman Redlick box up there is failing constantly, so much so as they have contacted Gorman Redlick support several times and haven't really gotten any help. So,
See, I've also contacted Gorman Redlick support multiple times, and they don't really have a support department.
Yeah.
I think it's one dude.
oh,
So
Daz has an amazing support department. I've
yeah.
called Daz before, and for example, whenever Ari first got her WDFA/cap machine, we did something in the settings that made the unit not want to get into the web interface anymore. I don't remember what it was, but we did something to get into a state where it wouldn't get into the web interface anymore. So we called DAS support, and even though we're enthusiasts and we can't really pay them or anything, they helped us anyway. They were super kind, super amazing, like over the top support. And I wish that was more commonplace. I mean, look at Sage.
Especially in
Sage's
broadcast
support is
equipment.
basically one person, and it's Harold Price who just helps you out. Dad's support is phenomenal. I have yet to see Trilithic/Viavi support get me anything.
I've talked to this guy. I think his name is Michael Campbell. He is the Trilithic support dude at Viavi, and he is amazing. I asked him a couple different questions about the EasyCap, like how many counties it can have, etc.
Yeah.
And he responded promptly and gave me what I asked for.
Yeah, I actually,
I-
speaking of support, I had to contact Daz like Anna was saying, but I had to contact him because I was having issues uploading WAV files for test audio, and that was probably honestly, that support was so quick, I was surprised myself, especially for a company that does as much as Daz does, because they're not the biggest company in the world either.
Yeah.
And they really do put customer service first, which I think is really nice, and I feel like definitely a lot more companies should take notes on that.
The way, put customer service first. I won't argue with that one. My main thing is they put customer service first, but they also charge you for the privilege of having that customer service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you need to pay it. Say if your DAS came with the C-Gen, but you don't have a license for it, you kind of just have to pay them. Hey, I would like to use the hardware that I already have.
And
I believe
I think the C-Gen
license
isn't it like
is $500.
It's like $500 to $1,000 now.
It's something ridiculous.
Which is absolutely insane.
It's ridiculous for a composite port.
For a frame buffer command.
Yeah. Because it's literally
Which makes me wonder what they're gonna do with the HDMI on the 3.
they'll probably do the same thing where they just have the analog video out thing just be digital video out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering on how they'd actually do that, and if you think of it since they're running Linux, a digital video out is the same as an analog video out. There's still a frame buffer there. You can still write to it. So, is it the same way? It'll be interesting.
Probably. I mean,
Yeah.
it really just depends.
It
It all depends. We won't be able to
Hopefully-
see it until we get a unit.
Yeah, and speaking on that, the people in that video, I forget what the guy's name is. He said that this unit might possibly launch in, I think, June. He said.
It's Q2
Which-
2022 was the date.
Yeah. So
speaking of
they asked him
getting
for a
a unit-
specific month, and they said around June. So that'll be interesting. I'm also.
Go ahead.
Prices might they were saying that they might talk about prices at NAB. So we don't know how much the units cost right now, but at NAB we're going to find out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I honestly might, if
Speaking-
it's only going to be 2 models, I feel like the prices could actually be pretty good, especially since they're not having to worry about producing, what was it, like 15 different models?
you don't have to worry about producing a bunch of models. Yeah, speaking of getting a unit, there is that one kid. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys were. I don't, and it depends on.
So-
who's, I think all of us in here knew, but just for the audience, there was an individual in the ERN chat who actually got a response from Daz of getting a review unit.
Actually, I managed to talk to them a little bit more. The kid, they weren't actually getting a review unit. They were saying that they could be the first to review the unit at NAB. However, since we're talking about a kid here, probably not able to travel across the United States into the middle of Vegas. So that's probably not
really
going to
about
happen.
it because Adam, the person at Daz that commented on it and said, review the product on the 1st of May. So that could be interesting too. I don't.
We'll provide updates
I'm
as
not
soon as
sure.
we get more info.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
we'd have to
I
follow
would
up.
have
Yeah, on the
told.
usual channels.
Yeah. One thing that will be interesting is, well, if a young kid in the general channels can get a DAS unit, why? What about ERN? Maybe we could get like a review unit, send it to Gabe.
Yeah. And I was even thinking about this. Gabe has a DAS, and DAS is their upgrade program.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. I could probably upgrade it up to a DAS 3.
The only thing is, how much would it cost?
Yeah.
To get that upgrade?
I can definitely get a hold of Daz and ask them.
Judging by
Because
the interfaces on the back of the DAS 3, hold on, I need to take a double look at the rear of the.
I know one of the major differences is I believe it's Ethernet for audio.
yeah, it uses RJ45 connector.
Yeah.
So it's
it isn't actually. Yeah, it isn't Ethernet. It's
just audio over RJ45, which basically is literally just instead of it being terminal blocks on the back, they just mapped it out to pins on an RJ45 connector.
Which is nice because I feel like a lot more stations are moving to that type of format of wiring.
Well, not only that, it's just better. It's just better cable management. You don't have to worry about ripping the wires out of the terminal block when you put the DAS deck in. You know.
Who knows? Maybe this will be the thing that helps stations start moving to audio over RJ45.
Or maybe even better audio over IP, depending on if they get
How
the
that's
AES
implemented.
model.
Exactly.
Because you got to remember the AES audio in and out is also through Ethernet or through RJ45.
Yeah.
So
That'll be interesting to see how they implement that. Speaking of implementing things, is there anything that you guys want to see DAS try to implement that they haven't talked about into the maybe the software?
Since they have the front panel, I would actual proper front panel origination.
Yes.
That's what
Proper
I'm wondering
front
is
panel
how much power is
origination.
that front panel gonna have?
I would also like to see more monitors off the bat, because with the LP unit that we have over at WXRW, we only have two monitors, and they're sticking with the 2 for the low end unit. 2 isn't enough.
Especially in some EAS plans.
Yeah, Wisconsin by default asks for, I think, almost 4. Even for LPFMs.
Don't they have you monitor the PEP, the LP1, and NWR?
PEP, LP1, NWR, and they had one other one. I don't remember what it is. But basically, no, they recommend you to also monitor the LP2. They say if you have the ability, or you have the ability to get a unit that can, we highly recommend that you do. Which, that's 4 monitors off the bat. So
I guess it varies state by state on what they want.
Yeah, with our unit at WXRW, we are required to monitor. We are required to monitor the PEP and the LP1. However, I would like weather alerts. Severe weather, such as severe storms and tornadoes and stuff, can happen around here, but our unit does not have the ability to receive those alerts right now, except relying on other stations that may or may not carry them.
And they also may have reduced audio quality compared to the reception that you could possibly get.
It makes me sad to see that DAS is still sticking with those 2 monitors, because they did say that even on the lower end model, the ability for those extra, it already has the Radio 3 and Monitor 4 there. You can see the ports on the back. The only thing that they're missing is that extra sound card that allows those to run. Like, so far, everything we've seen, those are sound blasters. You can buy those off the shelf. So, for like $20. So why do we need to pay probably another $1,000 for the EX model, or maybe $2,000? I don't know. Why do I need to spend that much more just for those extra monitors? Why can't they make like an EL for 2, and then like an EL Plus for 4 monitors, and it will just be like, I don't know, 100 more.
Yeah, and just having the ability to monitor more than 4 things, or even just having the ability to monitor more than like 3 or 4 things on a unit that costs less than $3,000 that's what makes the Sage really appealing for radio stations. Is because, especially in radio stations that need like at least 4 monitors, because the Sage comes with 6. The end. Like that's one thing. That's one thing I will give to DAS, that the Sage, it's old. You don't really get they're still very useful. In fact, my Sage has been cranking away since February of 2022 and has relayed at least 10,000 alerts. It really cranks. It really cranks along, and it's software and it's hardware from 2005. With they've just been releasing software updates. No license keys required. Like if I wanted to turn my unit into one that works with Alert Ready, I can do that.
I would like to see Sage to have a unit that has built-in radios, though. That would be amazing.
That would be very nice. Because in the past they did have the Sage receiver, and I'd love to see them bring that back with a revised version, maybe with a web server that integrates with the digital.
Yeah,
so and digital tuning.
And that's the one thing that I actually like. So I actually going to counteract that because that's one thing that if the Sage had built-in radios,
gotta keep in mind the Sage Digital is an FPGA of the 1822 that can have a maximum of 6 monitors and a serial in. That can't really change very easily unless you want to redesign the FPGA, or at least how the FPGA is being programmed to do stuff. So the way that I would do it is that I would have a Sage receiver, because I would much rather have the option to use a radio but not have a radio take up a monitor if I don't want to use a radio. So, like, for example, I can't pick up Cairo 710. This Cairo 710 just sounds like ground static. So, if I want to monitor the stream on monitor 1, I can plug that in on my Sage. If monitors 1, 2, and 3 were radios, then I could try tuning a 710. Or, for example, I can do weather radio, but I only have 2 stations in my area, and the radio stations that I can pick up reliably don't relay much. And then I just only have 3 monitors left for ancillary monitoring that I want to do, either if I'm alert chasing or for required relay program monitors. So, and that's just more of an enthusiast perspective. I mean, if you guys want to contribute with radio and TV stations perspectives, go right ahead.
One thing that you could do is do it like how. Well, actually, if you look at it, DAS actually did it the similar way, because if you look at the DAS interface, even on the older units, you had the ability to swap between baseband and radio. Baseband actually works
radios are still
fairly simply.
There.
Yes. The way that it works is baseband input is done on the microphone input on the motherboard. So if you plug in a stereo microphone input on the motherboard, there's your baseband input. However, it also gives you the ability, let's say you put in the left channel on that baseband input, let's say we put on ear and cap. And let's say I wanted to monitor Cairo 710 on one of the radios. You can do that. Like, you can have your right channel monitor radio be on Cairo 710, and your left channel be baseband input for ear and cap. That works. I would like to see more manufacturers do that.
But my thing is, like, if the radios don't need to be there, then why am I paying for them? That's my thing. Like, I would much rather pay for the radios that I'm going to use. I'd much rather pay for the radios that I'm going to use, as opposed to it just coming through the radios and just taking up space. You know?
Maybe if it was like who knows? Maybe like moving back to DAS. Maybe with the expandable parts of the DAS 3, maybe that could be an option for, like those for the low cost stations that only get the entry level one. Maybe we need to monitor, but of course with
you got to keep in mind
entry level there's no expandable.
The EL, there's no expansion. You pretty much kind of
which I think DAS kind of missed out on that.
I think that both models should have had. Here's the way I would have done it. I would say you only have one SKU, and that's going to be your just the DAS Deck 3. You'd only have one SKU, but you can still have the EL, which has expansion, it's just not populated, or the EX where it has some of the expansion ports populated. And
maybe like
what
based on what your needs are.
You can have it made to order, or users can purchase the cards from DAS and they can install it themselves.
Yeah, I guess the
or
thing
if they know what card it is.
expandability parts of the
Here's another thing. Why, if they can lock CGen and they can lock all these other things in software, why can't they just include the audio card in hardware for all the units and just lock the radios in software? So it's a license key. They do it with everything else.
Like-
it would make
That- that
sense because then they don't have to make two different units. Where if you want to upgrade your unit, you have to send it back to the factory. You don't have to do that. You can just, hey, I want to add more monitoring ability. All right, what's your unit number? We'll send over a license key which allows you to expand this without ever having to temporarily get rid of your unit. Because
Which I feel like in the long run would make it cheaper for DAS to produce.
Yeah, and you've got to think. If somebody wants to upgrade this, they have to send it back to the factory to either get a new unit, switching from the EL to the EX, or getting, if they have an EX, getting more monitors. That requires them to send it back to the factory to get a hardware upgrade. If it already has that, then you won't have the downtime of that unit having to be shipped away to the factory because it's already there. You just type in a few characters and it just enables. If they do it with they do it with CGen, they did it with Ethernet ports. They do it with certain cap features. They do it with serial. They did it with like US. Did they do it with USB? I think they did it with USB.
No, they didn't.
I don't.
Oh, okay.
No,
they
they
did
did
not.
not.
They
USB
only
serial,
did it
that's
with
what they
the-
did.
No, they didn't. They did. That wasn't a license key.
USB serial was part of, since the USB serial protocol is for CGen, that was part of the TV features.
But what about like
That
newsfeed?
makes sense, I think.
That's part of
Um,
TV features.
I think that might have just been.
I think the whole serial
Newsfeed is
package
part
was
of
under
TV?
TV.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Okay.
Anything that has to do
Because
with
think
serial,
about
I
it,
think, was under
controlling of a CGen is you're gonna want to have control of a CGen if you're gonna be a TV station. You don't really need that otherwise.
See, I'm surprised that someone at DAS hasn't made a flowchart of all of the license keys and what they add.
I would not be surprised if it is there, but just internally.
That would make sense as
Hey,
well.
we could just toy around with Gabe's unit or Cam's unit to make the flowchart ourselves.
I would love to do that.
Yeah, that would be
a little
interesting.
bit of
Yeah.
experiment.
Also,
Yeah,
speaking of things we need to try out, we need to try out TDX because they were pushing that in the thing. I actually never knew what TDX was until they were talking about it. And apparently they're trying to push for legislation to get TDX be included in National
Part 11.
Weather Service. Not Part 11, but National Weather Service. I think they were actually talking about Part 11, but they said that it isn't actually, they weren't thinking it would be required, but they would like for people like the NWS to send TDX for making sure that, let's say a child abduction emergency was issued for the state of Montana, right? Normally how it
Yeah.
would work is, let's say Montana uses both NWR and CAP. So a CAP alert would go out immediately saying child abduction emergency has been issued, here are the details. But then shortly
would go off
after, the
almost
NWS
immediately.
is going to go off. The NWS is going to go off with the exact same message. But the issue with NWS is their transmitters will issue the alert at the moment that it was issued, so the exact timestamp it was issued, along with
the counties of that transmitter.
the individual counties of the transmitter, which means that, let's say the original event code was sent for all of Montana, and you're monitoring 3 NWR stations or no weather radio stations. That means that there's
Those
a
are 4
possibility
non-duplicate
you're going to
alerts.
send that alert. Yeah, you're going to send that alert 4 times. And because they have different counties according to the DAS deck, they're not the same alert. It's going to be sent again and again and again. TDX allows you to send a burst of data right after the headers and attention tone, I believe, that say this is a unique identifier that only gets applied to this alert, and it gets applied to it over NWR, over EAS, over CAP. It is a universal identifier for that alert. So using that,
it's like a alert
their NWR stations can still individually send for every single county and for a different timestamp. But as long as they CAP, EAS,
Share the identifier.
and as long as they share that identifier in that message, which also includes extra data like the text data. So if you can build almost like an RDS decoder to just scroll it on certain radios, but you can also like program in links to, so like if you have a smart radio in a car, you can program in links to have it show up images on the screen. But using that, you can have it only send the alert once, a unique identifier for that alert, so it will never be sent again. It will just be matched as TDX says that I've already sent this alert, so don't send it again.
So it's basically
And
it's like a
it gets
stronger
added in that-
detection.
It's a stronger duplicate detection, and it's a built-in data transmission system, so you can do like text data and stuff, which I think that's really cool. We need to play with that. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
they're
that'd be
pushing
fun to
for
try
that to
on
be a
and see
standard
what
in
the
EAS,
possibilities
but the
of it
way
are.
that they've done it, I think it's actually configurable where it actually sends the TDX data. Not entirely sure.
I'll
think
have
that-
to,
that- I think
I'll
they're
have
gonna
to
make
see
it,
if I have TDX on my DAS. I'll have to see if I have that on there.
Knowing your
and if
DAS,
it
you
does,
probably do.
Yeah, I probably do. It might my
everything.
Yeah.
my one net is pretty beefed out. I just don't have like cap send or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
mine-
basically,
you'd have to
I'll
get
double check
a,
and see
uh,
it.
You'd have to get an EOC unit for that.
Yeah.
Even
Or
if
you ask
ask
Daz really nicely.
Yeah, I have TDX on mine. So
Really?
maybe we'll
really?
just have to play around with it. Yeah, I have a
Hey, you can
Okay.
I have a
you can do
We'll
data
take-
sharing
let's
between.
take that. Let's take that
Yeah.
offline.
yeah. Well, let's tinker around with this, and maybe we'll have to get back on another episode and follow up on this maybe in a,
Report
like a
our
month or two from
findings.
now.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about the DASDEC 3? Because I kind of want to go to the other subjects here. Because yes, we do actually.
Yeah,
have
I mean, I think we've kind of got through most of it. I think we'll have to follow up. Let's follow up whenever our next episode is. We're not sure what our
Here-
upload schedule's
here-
going to be. Maybe bi-weekly, but
Here's your DASDEC 3 summary. It's like the DASDEC 2, but better and worse in various ways.
the way
On
we
to the
started
next
this
subject.
episode, yep.
Yep, on to the next
All right,
subject.
so let's look at the next one we have here is falsified storm reports for a tornado caused a tornado emergency on the 12th of this month.
Caused multiple. I think it caused. I
think it caused- yeah, it was
3
like-
or 4.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I think I heard 3 or 4. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely
and,
interesting.
And because of this, as a result, Spotter Network has disabled their manual reports through the website, so they now have to be all done through a client like RadarScope on your mobile phone or laptop.
Which honestly, I think that should have been done in the first place. I think.
Yeah, that should have been done in the first place, because
Yeah.
I will admit I have been the victim of their stupid website, because back June of last year I was trying to report a wall cloud that was literally in my backyard, and I thought I had dragged the little pin marker, and I didn't, so I ended up reporting it probably about 70 miles away from where it was. So they did away with the website, which I'm happy for, because no one else can fall for that, and also people can't exploit it like what happened on the 12th.
Yeah. So yeah, there you have falsified tornado storm reports, and then on the West Coast we have a unreported water spout.
Yes.
So
Yeah, you were telling us about it before before we started recording this episode.
Yes. So Up in Seattle, actually specifically Lake Sammamish / Bellingham. I'll just read the event summary from the National Weather Service. This was the update that they posted on the 19th. At 7 p.m. on the evening of April 18th, a weak waterspout was reported on the eastern shore of Lake Sammamish, near Bellingham, in Whatcom County, Washington. Video evidence confirmed the waterspout. The waterspout resulted in damage to 3 boats docked on the shore of Lake Sammamish and other minor damages. This event will be classified as a waterspout, not a tornado, given the rapid dissipation of the waterspout as it came on shore. Therefore, it will not be given a tornado warning or tornado rating on the EF scale. So originally, when the waterspout occurred, a lot of news outlets were questioning the National Weather Service not issuing a tornado warning, nor assigning it an EF rating. And that was their kind of...
Well, I can see the EF rating just because it wasn't...
They didn't issue any warnings or advisories regarding the waterspout. The waterspout, I would say, I think
kind of snuck under the radar.
It sounded less than 3 minutes. So I don't believe that it would be enough to trip radar at that time.
Yeah, because usually scans only come every few minutes.
Yeah, so you have on one hand you have a falsified storm report causing a tornado emergency to be issued by the NWS, multiple in fact. And on the other hand, you have an unwarned waterspout that, if lasted longer, could possibly have been a tornado.
Yep.
So so in both cases, the NWS did kind of drop the ball, but I understand it for the waterspout. The tornado emergency, however, which office was this?
That's Little Rock and Memphis.
It was 2 offices that basically. So, okay, here's the way I'm looking at it. The reports could have been accurate.
Yes,
but I would still take a report like that with a grain of salt.
Well, the thing is, the reason they put so much trust in those reports is because the area where those reports were sent for, there's a very big radar gap in that area, so there's not a lot to go off of. And from both radars that had even a little bit of coverage in that area, the reports looked valid because they lined up with what was being shown on radar, and it was showing all of the necessary signs that you would expect to come with those reports.
Especially from far away.
Yeah.
Yes.
At that point, I think if I was in their shoes and I saw that report come in and it was kind of like a radar blackout, or it was just not in that just radar dead zone, yeah, I probably would have issued it, but I would also probably waited for something. I probably would have waited for some more substantial evidence.
Yeah, and honestly,
what's funny
I would
this
not.
Whole thing could have been solved just by having another radar in that area.
Exactly. Now, if I was the supervisor, if I was the supervisor on that shift, I would not have allowed the issuance of a tornado emergency. I would have capped it at PDS, because you just don't know, and you don't want to cause that panic in people when you aren't entirely sure.
Yeah.
Honestly,
if you're going off,
I would have done
if you're going off a report for a decision like that, you are doing something wrong. And that's my opinion.
As a storm spotter, in my opinion, they have ways to reach out to storm spotters. They have made those ways clear. They've got Twitter. They've got amateur radio. They can call you. They can email you. They've got several ways to communicate to spotters. And I know there are spotters in that area. There's spotters everywhere. So in my opinion, what they should have done is, whenever they started getting all these flood of reports of a tornado, you could have easily, they could have easily just reached out to the spotter saying, hey, confirm this. I want to hear your take. Because they train you as somebody who is trained in now both Milwaukee and Arkansas. One of the things that they train us is the difference between low-hanging clouds and actual tornadoes. In this case, it was low-hanging clouds and rain, which I looked at that and I went, that doesn't look like the first time I saw a photo of it, I looked at it because it was trending on Twitter and I was like, that's one weird tornado. I've never seen a tornado like that. It looks off. Something's wrong about it. And if somebody, like, also the videos that I've seen of it, there wasn't that much or any rotation that I saw.
Yeah.
So it's like if the NWS went to their communication routes and said, all right, spotters in this area, people who are trained to look for this, is there rotation on that storm? Is there an actual funnel on the ground? Is there debris? Or is it not rotating? Is it just a low cloud? What is going on there? They could have easily done that. That would have cleared it up very quickly, and that would have probably just gotten a severe thunderstorm warning. It wouldn't have been... There wouldn't have been a TOR. There wouldn't have been a TOR-C, PDS, tornado emergency. That wouldn't have been necessary because they could have just reached out to the spotters and say, hey, what is going on there? Is there rotation? They teach you, especially in Arkansas, really good lessons on rotation. I attended 2 separate classes in Arkansas. They teach you, well, I'm not sure about Eastern Arkansas, but in Western Arkansas, they were really firm about the rotation. And, yeah. So, like, that would have been my course of action. A radar right in that dead zone would be amazing. But that costs a lot of money to implement and a lot of infrastructure versus just going, hey, spotters, the people that I trained you to see what it is. Can you get photos? Can you get videos? Can you tell me what you're seeing? They train the eye. That's what they called the spotters in spotter training. We are the NWS's eyes on the ground. So
Yeah.
use those eyes. Don't rely on a whole bunch of flood of reports of quote unquote tornado and the little wisps on your radar. Like radar and storm reports are amazing, but you have spotters as a resource for a reason. Use it. Yeah. So
Yeah, I will definitely agree with that.
Likewise.
Yeah. So yeah, like that's like, I think it's just a good lesson in general. Like, if you have a resource, use it. Don't be afraid to double check. Like, the worst thing you're going to do is waste somebody's time. And that somebody's time could be at the National Weather Service. That some person's time could literally be literally being you calling the wrong spotter. I mean, you have your resources. Radar scope, as far as I'm not actually never used radar scope, but I believe radar scope literally tells you the location of most spotters that are registered on there.
Yes.
Fun fact about spotters: whenever that warning was whenever it was tornado emergency, they actually had spotters in that area going, "Where's the tornado?" Like on Twitter, like taking photos of the low clouds and saying, "I don't see a tornado. Where's the tornado?" The NWS could have looked at that.
I saw that on Twitter as
well.
well.
If they're saying, if all of your spotters in that area are going, "Where is the tornado? I don't see anything," I think that's saying something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think it was definitely an interesting kind of like more one-off situation that could have been prevented.
Hopefully, I hope that the NWS learns from this in a really good way. Like, I hope that they see that spotter thing. I also hope that they crack down on spotter training, because I know that from what I've heard, there are some offices that their spotter training are kind of like, here's a tornado. Here's a severe thunderstorm. You see them? Good. You're now a spotter.
Like Grand Rapids, they didn't
Yeah.
even issue me a certificate. They just said, "Come to this training for an hour and a half, and hey, now you're a spotter."
That's how Great Falls
So
is.
actually-
too, honestly.
So actually, I somebody brought up at the recent training that I did for Milwaukee, and they said that spotter certificates aren't a thing anymore, and the reason why is yes, because people are moving all the time. Keeping track of a spotter certificate between multiple offices and keeping a database of everyone, having to update that database all the time whenever somebody moves, and relying on that spotter to actually tell the office, hey, I've moved. I'm no longer in your area.
Which I think is a bad
the
choice,
NWS
honestly,
has
'cause I feel like
opted
that
to
could
get
cause-
rid. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I think
the
it's a
NWS has
bad
opted to get rid
option.
of it.
Yeah, I think that could have been what could have caused this issue, honestly, because there was no way to verify.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a massive downside to the whole, I think it's a whole culmination of everything that was going on there, like especially like no radar, like, NWS getting rid of certificates and such like that. I feel like, those were there for a reason in the first place. I don't know why we got rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, on that note, I think for the sake of the fact that we've been at it for how long?
I think just over an hour, maybe an hour. And a
I think
half.
about an hour, 15 minutes. So, yeah, let's wrapping up the episode. We'll have to follow up on the DASDEC 3 once we get more information on it. We'll probably have a whole episode dedicated to the follow up, and I think
We could
Yeah,
probably
hopefully.
talk about the 3 for hours.
Oh
Yeah.
well,
That could be an entire podcast on its own.
yeah, just the DASDEC 3
Easily.
podcast.
Year end.
Anyways, I wanna thank you all
on the
for-
DASDEC 3 coming soon near you.
Yeah, I
Well,
want to
on
thank you
that
all for
note.
listening to the ERN podcast, and we will see you in our next episode. This is Cameron. I'm your host here with Anna, Dawn, and Gabe. Yeah.
Yo. But yeah, that's
how we
Same
end
bat
it, guys.
time, same bat channel.
Yep. See you guys later.